Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Before we kick off, I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay our respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. First of all, a little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder that we're recording this session. The recording will be sent out to you and everyone who registered. Please note that any information that you provide will be managed in accordance with our privacy policy. You can find the link to our privacy policy in the chat. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box, and we'll leave about 10 minutes or so at the end of the session just to go through the questions and provide you with some answers as well. So we're all professionals, and if you see questions that resonate with you, please feel free to answer them and engage positively. We want to keep this a safe space to share knowledge and ideas. If you've been to these sessions before, you know that we give away a free coaching session with Support Coordination Academy. The winner will be drawn at the end of this session, so make sure that you stay right to the end. Could be your name that's picked out today. We're really excited here at Endeavour Foundation to let you know that after 70 years of providing safe and reliable services in Queensland, we will soon be operating new supported independent living accommodation services in New South Wales and Victoria as well. We'll provide you with more information in the coming weeks, but if you'd like to know more, please get in touch with us through our normal channels, through our website. Now, Mary from Support Coordination Academy is facilitating our session today, and we'll be exploring the important topic of safeguarding and your pivotal role as a support coordinator. Now, before I hand over to Mary, our facilitator for the day, I'd like to invite Yasmin Thomas. Yasmin is Endeavour Foundation's Complex Support Lead. Yasmin will touch on our own approach to capacity building. Over to you, Yasmin.
Thank you so much, Helena. I did just want to clarify that today's session is around capacity building. I think safeguarding was the last session. Okay. Can everybody see that slide that says complex support team? Is that working? Great. Well, today I wanted to, thank you. Today I wanted to talk with you all about a team that I lead at Endeavour Foundation. We are called the Complex Support Team, and I think we demonstrate a really innovative and unique aspect of the services that we provide to the people we support, but also to frontline staff and a range of different stakeholders, of which support coordinators are one. So we are a multidisciplinary team. We comprise 5 FTE, 2 social workers and 2 behaviour support advisors, one of whom has specialisation in restrictive practice. And our work is really focused on upholding the human rights and the support goals, the unique support goals of the people that we support. And I guess in the spirit of capacity building, our discussion today, our work is really focused on, at times, building the capacity and resilience of the people that we support, as well as our frontline staff. So I'll talk a little bit about that today. So I provided just, I guess, some examples of the types of support that we deliver across both components of the team. So, and really, our links with support coordinators are a constant aspect of our work. Complex is in the title of my team for a reason, because we get involved when there are complexities in the lives of the people we're supporting. And often our work is ensuring that the managers of our services have these established relationships with individuals like yourselves, like support coordinators. Sometimes there are multiple changes in the support coordinators that assist our clients. So our team can be a really good conduit at times when there's change around the supports provided to clients. So in terms of behaviour support, we all know that securing NDIS funding can take some time. It's not just something that appears in a person's NDIS plan overnight, when we might begin to see some behaviours of harm or behaviours of concern. So really, part of the function that my team is able to offer our clients is pulling together some of the evidence that support coordinators need to provide that evidence around the submission of change of circumstance applications. So we can provide reports that synthesise some of the areas of support that clients might require, and we'll also pull down really comprehensive incident summary documents to support you all with your change of circumstance application, so that when that change of circumstance is submitted to the NDIS, particularly for positive behaviour support funding, that we get it right the first time. And we do that in close partnership with support coordinators. But meanwhile, we need to keep everybody safe in our services. So the behaviour support advisors actually have backgrounds in human services and psychology themselves, and they work with our frontline staff to develop realistic strategies to keep people safe, while that funding is being obtained from the NDIS. And that can mean that we go out to site and we look at the environment where a person is living. It can mean that we develop easy read resources and other therapeutic resources, such as some of those emotional regulation tools. So emotional regulation thermometers, working with the client around breath work, those types of things. So the focus of this work is really around immediate safety of the people that we're supporting until that NDIS funding is in place. So really, I guess that demonstrates, some capacity building with support coordinators around evidence gathering, but also capacity building with our frontline staff so that they are feeling much more equipped to deal with the complex behaviours that clients might present with. The behaviour support advisors also deliver frontline training to our staff around, what is positive behaviour support? What does it look like? Describing and defining what restrictive practice is, so that they're developing some of their skills and knowledge in that area. The restrictive practice specialist in my team manages all of the reporting that we do to the NDIS Commission, as well as the state governments in relation to restrictive practice. We submit QCAT applications for the appointment of restrictive practice guardians, to make sure that all use of restrictive practice occurs in alignment with approvals. We also monitor all of the positive behaviour support plans in place for our clients and make sure all of the consents are in place, so that if we have guardians from the Office of the Public Guardian who give conditional consents, we're actually monitoring all of those aspects of a person's plan. Social workers in our team. So I thought I'd give some examples of some of the work that social workers do. So our work, and I can say this as a social worker, our work is broad and deep. So we get involved in lots of different aspects of incidents that occur across Endeavour Foundation, but generally they are in relation to providing support regarding some of those big events that happen in the lives of our clients. So when we have someone who passes away in one of our services, or the parents of one of our clients passes away, when we have disclosures of harm, or of our clients disclosing historical trauma, we're able to provide that immediate response to make sure people are safe and that we link them into appropriate specialist services. Now, a big part of that is also making sure that we're linking with you guys, with support coordinators during these difficult times. We don't just go off and shoot from the hip. We want to make sure that all of the stakeholders involved in the lives of our clients come along with us and are supporting the person, because that's the focus of our work at Endeavour, is person-centred support. The social workers also provide support during other big life events, like when clients are hospitalised. So if we have a client who is that they're proposing to discharge from hospital after a period of ill health, the social workers in my team do a lot of liaison with clinical teams and with social workers at the hospitals to make sure that it's safe and appropriate for them to be discharged. And we link really closely with support coordinators at that point in time to make sure that they've got appropriate allied health supports to enable them to come home safely. So, for example, occupational therapy assessments. Have they got support from physios? Have they got all of the aids and equipment that they might need to come home? You know, from wheelie walkers to wheelchairs to hoists, those types of things. We also do QCAT applications. The social workers in my team do manage all the QCAT applications. So particularly for some of those more contentious matters where we have concerns about violence, abuse, neglect and exploitation that some of our clients might be exposed to, particularly living with families, or we've got concerns about some of the decision makers that are present in a person's life. That takes an enormous amount of time to do those, but it's a really critical part of the work that we do. Again, always linking with support coordinators in those more complex matters of support. And we also, as all social workers do, we provide lots and lots of resources to support our clients. That can be that can include psychosocial assessments of our clients. It can include the development and delivery of easy read resources to clients, particularly around things like grief and loss. You know, we provide one-on-one support on the back of those really big critical incidents, but we also deliver group work support. So we also provide support where we can, particularly around things like healthy relationships, where we can see some of our clients might be struggling with some of the boundaries around what's an intimate relationship, what's a working or a professional relationship. How do I navigate having intimate friendships with people? And how is that different to the relationship I have with my support worker? So all of those types of really important life skills that we provide that support to our clients in group settings as well. We are currently exploring opportunities around fee for service in this aspect of our work, because at the moment, all of my entire team is funded by Endeavour. So it is something that the organisation feels very strongly about. And to be honest, I don't know how other providers deliver safe, keep their participants safe and well without teams like mine in place. Yes, so we are looking at opportunities to charge for the services that we deliver, but currently we are a service that's available to all of the clients that we support in Endeavour. So I hope that's given you a bit of an overview of my team and the work that we do, and also really highlight the importance of collaboration and of engagement with a range of different stakeholders, of which support coordinators are a really critical part.
Hi everyone, it's Mary here from Support Coordination Academy. Welcome to today. And thank you, Yasmin, for that in-depth and discussion about your services. Look, so today we are actually going to be talking about empowering change, support strategies for capacity building and support coordination. Okay, let's move the camera across. There we go. Just to let you know that I have been unwell, so I'll try to limit the amount of coughing that I do by drinking lots of water. Okay, let's make a start. Right, so today we're going to focus on looking at what capacity building means within the NDIS context, how a support coordinator can identify opportunities to build capacity, and strategies to evidence capacity built. So one thing I just really want to note is that when I talk about participants, it's in a general nature. So when I say this, I'm also referring to anyone who might be acting on behalf of a participant, for example, their nominee, their carer, their parent, or whoever that might be. So just to keep that in mind. Okay, so first of all, we're going to focus on understanding what a capacity building approach means. Okay, here we go. So a capacity building approach has an empowerment focus. So this means empowerment through growth in a way that enhances lifelong learning and empowers a person to have influence over their life, to actively participate in creating their own future, which really resonates with the concept around choice and control with the NDIS. So the approach focuses on strengths of the individual. So focuses on a person's strengths, so what they're good at, and their abilities, so the capacity that they have to do things. So this is a shift from a deficit model, which would focus on what people can't do. So the shift is to a strength building and a growth mindset model. So it's about saying, all people have some capacity and some ability. So how do we support them? How do we focus on their strengths? And how do we support them to leverage off those strengths and build that strength, that confidence and skills? So capacity building has a holistic and long-term focus and approach. So this means that it's about providing ongoing and long-term support to achieve goals through a range of supports and services based on a participant's unique needs, but it's about overcoming those multidimensional barriers. So that's kind of thinking about, sometimes when we work with participants, we find that they have these quite aspirational goals, but when we actually start to work with them, we actually find that those goals might take, 2 or 3 years to achieve, and that's fine because that's that person's goals. And our role is to really to support them to think about, well, how can we support you to put strategies in place to actually work towards achieving those goals? So that's that capacity, that growth focus. So for example, you are working with a participant who has a lifelong goal to be a chef. So, and their strength is around their passion for food, and their capacity is around their ability to learn new life skills. So after you say you've been working with a participant and you're exploring how they will want to achieve those goals, what would those outcomes look like, they decide to break that goal into more achievable steps for them so that they can build their confidence and skills over time. So you might start with breaking that goal down into more achievable steps. So it might be about starting with the supports to some life skill development for that person. So it could be about how to cook healthy meals, where to buy the healthy food from, how to budget for the healthy food. Once these goals were achieved and they got more confidence around their cooking ability, it might be about progressing to looking for some volunteering opportunities so where they can actually prepare and learn more about cooking meals for other people. They might then want to progress to actually signing up to a course about how to become a chef. So it's about what is the growth mindset, what is the capacity, what are the abilities, and how do we put steps in place to support people to achieve those lifelong goals? Okay, so a capacity building approach within the NDIS means supporting a participant to build their skills, confidence, and abilities to enhance their independence and their quality of life. So it's about enabling a participant to overcome barriers and challenges to achieve their life goals. Okay, kind of giving you some context there. So how do support coordinators actually work with participants to build their capacity within the NDIS context? So the fundamental requirement for all support coordinators is to continually build their professional knowledge around supports and services available within their broader community. So that's about building your toolkit, that toolkit base, your knowledge base, so that when you're working with participants based on their own unique needs, their goals, their aspirations, you're able to pull out of that knowledge some really good supports and services within the community, within mainstream, funded supports, all that kind of thing. So I just want to break that down a bit further. So networks of supports, it's about supporting a participant to build a resilient network of supports around them. And it's about the most fundamental way you can support a participant to build capacity, because it's about identifying what are the supports and services that they need to achieve their goals. But building a resilient network of supports actually helps them to weather those storms through change or crisis or things that happen. So it's about those supports can step up and provide that support network for them. So when we look at informal or natural supports, these are the people and the connections that are important to a participant, the people that they have those intimate relationships with. These includes families and friends whose absence would have a significant impact on them. The people that they see regularly, they trust and are close to. So they also might have friendships. So they might be people that they know or spend time with, but they wouldn't necessarily spend time with them every day. So they could be people that they've built connections with when they socialise or out in the community or going out for dinner. It could be someone like a person who likes to go to the same coffee shop every day and has a really good relationship with a barista, and they have a really good conversation and they build that connection. So that's kind of an informal connection. There is also informal connections based on a person's values and beliefs. So this could be part of their culture or their religion. They're part of those values and beliefs which influence the decisions they make and how they order their lives or how they see their worldview. So informal or natural supports can be quite broad. Community supports are more the supports that create connection to community. So these are supports that they can participate in, feel included, and interact with regularly. They could include neighbourhood groups, sporting clubs, interest groups, peer groups, lots and lots of different options available depending on what a person is looking for. So community supports often also have a capacity building focus. So the aim is to connect individuals to society, to strengthen their tie to people within their community, making it a better place for them to live. And then we look at mainstream or other government support. So these are services that are government funded for everyone to access, whether they're a participant of the NDIS or not, and they meet a fundamental need in our society. So each service, you would know, has a specific criteria. It's targeted at a specific audience. So this could include people with mental health issues, health, education, justice, child protection. There's a range of mainstream services. Okay, so these services also have a very clear interface with the NDIS, and that interface acknowledges that there's supports, so between health and the NDIS, there's responsibilities that the NDIS have, and there's also responsibilities that the health service have. So that's about understanding the interface, because as support coordinators, our role is to understand what the responsibilities are of all these mainstream services or other government services, and supporting a participant to build their capacity to understand what that means and what services they can actually access, what service they are eligible for. Sorry, there's going my voice. So you can find a lot more information on the NDIS website under the operational guidelines for mainstream and community services. Sorry. The other services that we're looking at, here we go. NDIS funded services. So these are supports and services that are assessed as required, obviously, to meet the unique needs of a participant. Okay, so understanding informal community and mainstream supports and funded supports directly relates to the capacity building role of a support coordinator. So the capacity building focus directly relates to the NDIS principles of empowering a participant to have true choice and control and to realise their full potential, just like any other Australian. So a support coordinator enables a participant to have choice and control by providing information about their options available and to empower a participant to make those informed decisions. So support coordinators provide options, come up with creative options based on a person's unique needs, but also offer options so that people can make informed decisions about what they want to do. So there's a range of skills that support coordinators need to support a participant to build their capacity. If you think about some of the activities that support coordinators do, facilitating person-centred planning to understand a participant's support needs, priorities, passions and interests. Drawing on their understanding of an NDIS to build the capacity of a participant to understand what their plan means to them, how they want to use their plan, how linking in all the community, informal and mainstream supports builds that resilient network of supports. Supporting a participant to problem solve different situations and learning how to direct how their support is delivered. Helping a participant to understand what quality support looks like. Linking in those supports and services, but also that refining and reviewing a participant's supports to ensure that they continue to meet their support needs. Okay, keep moving. Hopefully my voice holds out. Okay. So how can a support coordinator identify opportunities to support a participant to build their capacity? So what we've observed over a number of years from working with support coordinators is there's a number of different elements to building capacity, which are unique to every participant, obviously. So a support coordinator's role is specifically focused on supporting a participant and reporting on a participant's progress within the NDIS context. So how they've built their capacity to implement and manage their plan, how they've built capacity to achieve their goals. So it's always helpful to assess activities that a participant is confident in and the support they will need to build their capacity within this context. So breaking down the idea of capacity building into these activities can make the whole concept of reporting on capacity built a bit more practical for support coordinators as well as the participants that we support. So these are really practical things like taking the time to understand how confident a participant feels, what they find challenging, and identifying how you can support them to build their capacity. So what are the opportunities that are available? Then supporting a participant to identify and agree on strategies to overcome these challenges, to support a participant to do these activities with more independence. So the aim there is to provide the knowledge and the information, helping a person to problem solve, to understand context, to understand the NDIS environment, so that in the future they can actually do an activity by themselves more independently. Okay, so let's have a look at some opportunities. So when we're thinking about the NDIS context, supporting a participant to understand their plan, so taking the time to unpack their NDIS plan, understanding what their goals mean to them and understanding what outcomes mean to them and how they want to achieve their goals, how the funding relates to their goals and the supports they can access and budget flexibility. NDIS process and rules, and these are probably about the most challenging things that are to explain. So understanding where to get information from, where can you go on the NDIS website, understanding operational guidelines, how they translate to supports and services, and understanding reasonable, necessary decision-making criteria. So what does it mean? How can you support a person to understand the supports that they can access with their funding? And also supporting a participant to build their capacity to manage their budgets over a period of plan, how to track them, how to manage them, how to forecast, how to spend that expenditure. Okay, also about building that resilient network of support. So really thinking about identifying opportunities to build relationships and connections that align with the participants' values and beliefs, and leveraging off the supports that they already have. So if people have some really good connections to community, understanding what those connections are and actually saying, well, what works really well? What are some of the things that we could do differently? Or bringing in those connections and supports and saying, how can we leverage off that? How can we increase a person's capacity around that? Okay. Right, going to keep moving, just keeping mindful of the time. Okay, so how do we evidence how capacity is built? So the NDIS views a support coordinator as being an intermediary between the NDIS and a participant, which is why we have reporting requirements. And there are reporting requirements around updating the NDIS, around progress, around achieving goals, understanding what barriers might be for a person, what risks might be evidence, or about why someone hasn't been able to progress towards their goals or utilise their funding. So again, comes back to that NDIS context. Our responsibility also is about reporting on how we have supported a participant to build their capacity. So what are the activities that we've done? How have we done that? And also about what opportunities and outcomes that have been achieved. So a support coordinator needs to evidence how they have supported a participant to build their capacity, to manage and implement their NDIS plan, and again, progress towards achieving their goals. Okay, so NDIS, yep, we've got the right slide. So one of the main strategies that I use is to measure capacity built over a period of time. And there's a number of ways that you can do this. You can develop your own templates. You can look for outcome measurement frameworks. But thinking about the NDIS context and what are those elements within the NDIS context that you can actually evidence how someone's built their capacity. So if you think of things like understanding NDIS processes, understanding what a quality provider looks like, being able to advocate for themselves and talk to a provider around, what they need from a service, and understanding what a good service looks like, so that if something happens, they can very quickly pick up on what's not working well. So all of these kind of things, if you think about all the supports that you provide, you can easily develop a bit of a competency or outcomes framework that you kind of go, well, what are the opportunities that we're looking for to build capacity, and then what would those outcomes look like once that capacity has been built, or we're working towards that capacity, and then taking a bit of a baseline about where a person's confidence is, or the things that they feel that they're able to do at this point in time, and then using that outcomes framework over a period of time to actually measure the progresses that's been achieved. So if you develop a bit of an outcomes framework, or you research or Google some ones that are out there, what it helps you do is that it helps you to really evidence the capacity that's been built over a period of time, but it helps you with your reporting, evidencing that, but also really tracking with a participant and helping them to reflect on what's actually been achieved. Because quite often what can happen is that you work with participants and they go along and they go along their day-to-day work, but actually coming back and going, well, actually 6 months ago, this is where we were, and now this is where you are. That's amazing. And celebrating those achievements. So the other thing to keep in mind is that not all people with a disability will have the capacity to build capacity in specific areas of their life. So some people won't have the ability to develop new skills or capacity in specific areas. So for some people that we support, building capacity looks different. And this is what I was talking about earlier about. It's unique for every person that we need to look at. So it's always coming back and saying, how can we build capacity for this person? Is it about learning new skills, understanding more information, being more confident around understanding an NDIS? Or is it more about having stability in their supports and services? So for some people, just having that stability, having a consistent network of supports that they can rely on is capacity building. So thinking about every single person will be unique in what that looks like. Okay. So this also helps you to understand how for each person that you're supporting, when you're reporting back to the NDIS around progress, around achieving their goals, really coming back and saying, well, what's unique for this person? What are the opportunities that we've worked towards? How have we built capacity, or how has that person built capacity? And it might be about a quantitative or qualitative measure that you might use, but it's also about going back and seeing where was that person back like 6 months ago or a year ago, and what's different now, what's progressed. Okay, so also what I find is a really good way is really tapping into people who are surrounded by that person. So you could be gathering evidence from the participant themselves. So by asking them to reflect on, and this is part of your review process. So often within the last 3 months of the plan, you're starting your review processes, and you're asking a participant to reflect on what's happened or changed over the period of time. So you'd be asking the person to say, like, what do you think has changed? What do you feel more confident in? Or what do you think has improved? So this evidence can be summarised in case notes, or the participant might want to provide something in writing themselves to document how they feel they've worked towards achieving their goals. This could also be around asking people who are close to the participants to document their observations of how things have improved or progressed. Often family members or close friends can easily see the progress made or how the participant has improved over time. And asking them to document this is incredibly valuable, and it really helps you to pull out some of those measurements around the progress that has been achieved over that period of time. And also the most obvious one that we do on a regular basis with support coordinators is getting reports from those support networks. And also mainly we ask for reports from funded providers, but you can also ask for reports from like mainstream services or community connections, because it's not just about building capacity around one type of support, it's about overall the person's feeling, their confidence, their willingness to engage. Lots and lots of different ways to measure capacity build. So when we're thinking about funded service providers, having a think about what's best practice, how can you set up a system right at the beginning to make sure those providers know what their reporting responsibilities are for that participant. So one way is to set up the expectation of what a participant requires when you're helping them to set up service agreements with providers. So thinking about things like talking to the providers about how they're going to support a participant to work towards achieving their goals, what support will they provide, and really articulating it within a service agreement about what their reporting responsibilities are and the time frames of when those reports are required. Okay. So the report could include things like the goals for the participant, how the participant was supported to achieve their goals, and also providing examples of how the participant was supported to build their capacity. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go over to, we've got a bit of time left. I'm going to go over to the, okay, we've got questions in the chat, and I think we've also got some in the Q&A. Okay, Caitlin, just to confirm, have you moved questions from the chat over to the Q&A?
Yes, I've moved one over. There is another one that's in the chat that I was about to move over.
Okay, that'd be great, so I can just look at one place. Okay, great.
Yep, no worries.
So a question from Talia H for Yasmin. In regard to social work services, what would this be charged under to the participant? I think, Yasmin, it would be really good for you guys if you're looking at you know, having a fee for service around your social work and your behaviour support services. Is that something that you could send out to support coordinators?
Yes, we're not at that stage yet. So at the moment, our services are absolutely free for all Endeavour Foundation clients. But the social workers in my team are also members of the Australian Association of Social Workers and are working towards their mental health social work accreditation. So like many NDIS participants, they're also absolutely able to access the Medicare funded supports available to all Australians. You know, getting a mental health care plan developed by their GP and accessing therapeutic supports from either a mental health accredited social worker, a psychologist or a counsellor, as long as they are part of that registered Medicare scheme. But there are also opportunities within that capacity building support category for some social workers to provide therapeutic supports.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be completion of an assessment around ongoing need for therapeutic supports. It might not just be the delivery of those sort of, you know, relationship support directly.
Okay,
So I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Yasmin. Look, there's also a comment here from Rosita. There's only so much capacity that can be developed after all these individuals with various forms of disabilities. So this idea of indefinite capacity building is irrelevant to majority of participants. Okay, I totally understand where you're coming from, Rosita. I've worked with a number of participants who don't have a lot of language, don't have a lot of mobility, are incredibly unwell, and to actually work with participants in these circumstances and to think about, well, how do I build capacity? It's for me, capacity building is really about a practice framework. So it's about a growth mindset. So there are always a participant often sits within an environment, so they might be living at home with a family, they might be living by themselves. It's about going, how do we support this person to have a resilient network of supports around them? And how do we support this person and their family and their network of supports to have a resilient network of supports around them? So when it comes to capacity, it's not as black and white as saying, oh well, a person doesn't have the ability to increase their language. It's really about a practice framework. So it's about coming from a growth mindset. There's a reason why participants or people with disability get access to the scheme, and there's a reason why support coordinators work with people under the NDIS, and that's because they often have really high and complex support needs. So it might be around building their capacity to stay out of the justice and youth system. It might be about building their capacity to link to supports to have insight into their behaviours. So there's a number of ways that building capacity, and it's about, if you keep coming back to the practice framework around, it's a growth mindset. So it's about supporting a person to achieve their goals and coming up with avenues to support that person to build their capacity in the way that they want to build capacity. Okay, so if the original capacity building goal has been achieved and if a new goal is determined, can the SC request more funding to help support achievement of a new goal? So I suppose what you need to have a think about is that goals are supposed to be really, really broad. So goals might be as broad as wanting to increase relationships, wanting to increase connections to community. So there's a number of ways that goals can be achieved. And it's really about going back to a participant and going, so what does that goal mean to you? What would that outcome look like if you had built more relationships? What does that mean to you? And by understanding what those goals means, it opens up opportunities to create capacity or support a person to build their capacity. So thinking around capacity is more of a practice framework and a growth mindset than really focusing on the detail. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, Palani. So capacity building is the NDIS working terminology. Let's humanise the language. It takes any normal person to learn new skills, abilities. Absolutely, 6 to 3 months, years. Let's manage our expectations. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get across, is that a person might have the same goals for 5 years. It doesn't matter about the name of the goal. It's about understanding what it means to that person. What do those goals mean? What are the outcomes that they want to achieve? Because what our perception of what a goal means and what another person's conception means might be two different things. So it's about coming back and reviewing and visiting and really going, so this is how you want to work towards this goal now. Let's come back in 6 months' time and go, so what does this goal mean to you now? Because their worldview might have changed, because they have learnt new skills, they have more knowledge, they are more confident. So what does this goal mean to you now? And as support coordinators, that's building capacity. That's about saying, the world's your oyster. There are opportunities out there. What does it mean to you? How can we work together to support you to achieve those goals? And absolutely, Chris, we should never underestimate a participant's ability to build some form of capacity, no matter how small. Absolutely. And it's about understanding from a support coordinator's perspective, having those skills and that ability and the time, and making the time to come back and unpack that and really understand it from a participant's perspective. So what does that actually mean for them? What are their outcomes? How would they like to achieve their goals? But also, what do the goals actually mean to them? And that is building capacity, even helping a person to understand that there are opportunities, that they do have choices, that they can make choices and have control over their supports and services. That alone is building capacity. So really breaking it down and really understanding how a person has progressed over time. And it's not just about the person themselves, it's about the network around them. So they're informal supports to understand how to navigate the NDIS. Their family, their friends, their connections, about understanding what it all means, having that knowledge and the confidence to actually say, well, hey, these are my dreams, these are my aspirations, and this is what it means to me. Okay. Exactly. So sometimes we also have to remember that whilst the goal may be achieved, if we do not keep working on it, it can be lost. So I might achieve a safe housing option, but if I do not continue to pay my rent or pay the mortgage, I lose my safe housing. Yeah. So again, that's a really good example of coming back to going and reviewing, well, you might be in a rental property now and you might be really, really happy about where you are, but what does safe housing mean to you now? Because the vision of the goal and what that goal means to that person might change over time. Okay, so not doing for, doing with, absolutely. It's about how can I support you? I'm here to give you the information, the confidence, the skills. I can link you in with supports and services, but what does it mean to you? Being person-centered and self-directed by that person, supporting them to have informed decision-making, to have choice and control. Okay, absolutely agree. Supporting the lifelong learning for some participants. Absolutely, it can be lifelong. We all have lifelong goals. As support coordinators, we need to have a vision of lifelong learning ourselves around professional development and increasing our skills and understanding about how we can improve on the way that we do things as well. Okay, we've got around 12 minutes left. Goals are long term, sometimes as long as 3 to 10 years. High chance support coordinators will only be part of the process. Absolutely. Important for support coordinators to ensure support is consistent for clients during this journey and not to bring the client back to a starting point. Yeah, it's a really good point to make, because even though we work with participants, we do work with some participants where they will have 10 steps forwards and 20 steps back. And that happens with everybody in our day in life. We know that sometimes when we get up in the morning, we might get some news that puts us back a couple of days or a week or a month or whatever. And it's going to take us a long time to get back to the point where we're at a level where we feel like we want to work towards something. So it's about a lifelong journey. It's about acknowledging that as humans, we come across barriers and challenges along the way, and that's okay, because it is a lifelong journey. But it's also about understanding that from that person's perspective, being person-centered and understanding what those goals are, how they want to achieve them. And as a support coordinator, one way we can build capacity is coming back to those goals and saying, so what does that mean to you now? Are your goals different? What does that look like? What are the things that you want to work on next? How can we support you through this process? Okay, hopefully that's made sense. We've got some really, really good comments in there, and I know there's some questions in the Q&A, so I'm just going to go over and have a look. Would using person-centered planning tools and 16 life areas appropriate to the participant identify how the person has progressed? Look, absolutely. If you have some person-centered planning tools and life areas, definitely that's one way to measure progress or measure what's changed or how a person's built their confidence or what's different for that person. There's a number of ways that you can do it. I find for NDIS reporting, coming back to those kind of tools are amazing and I use them all the time. But coming back when you're doing your reporting, it's really important to use the language that NDIS understands. So why have their goals changed? What capacity has been built? Why have their goals changed? How does that relate to, and what are the supports that are needed going forward? And how does that relate to building a different, not different, but how does that relate to supporting that person to achieve their goals in the future? So really bringing it back to that, but using evidence-based tools and attaching that to reports can be amazing. Okay, and I think person-centered planning tools are really good options to use with participants and families directly. Tools for them to go and fill in and bring back, It helps them to look at and see what progress has been achieved or what's different for them as well. Okay. Okay, I think we've covered most of the questions. Yep. Okay. I think we've answered most of the questions. If you have any other questions, please put them into the chat or the Q&A. It looks like people are going across both forums. And what we've actually been doing is if there's any additional questions that we haven't been able to answer, or you think about something at late notice, you can email us at info@scacademy.com.au. We're always happy to have a chat or respond to your emails. You can also put them into the chat, and then Caitlin will actually send me questions to respond to when they send out the PowerPoint and the recording, the link to the live recordings. So feel free to put your questions in there. Okay, Caitlin, I'm going to hand back over to you because we only have a limited amount of time available.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thanks for that. And thank you everyone for joining us today. As Mary mentioned, we'll go through all the unanswered questions and provide some responses where we can. And you should receive this email and other resources early next week. So now to the Lucky Door Prize. We have picked someone randomly, of course, and Jack Scowler, you're the winner today. I hope you're still online. Fabulous, Jack. Mary will be in touch with you so that you could redeem your Lucky Door Prize. Congratulations. Please complete our feedback form. You can find the link in the chat box. It really helps us inform our future sessions. It helps us to understand what information you are looking for us to deliver. So please do spend a couple of minutes and just complete that feedback form for us. Mary's webinar topic for next month is support coordination, a person-centered planning. You'll receive the registration link in your inbox very soon as well. We can't wait to see you again next month. So thank you so much for your continuing support and for joining us in this webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Hello everybody, welcome to our Learning and Lifestyle Hub. This is where we make learning fun.
Hi, I'm Grace. I live independently with support when I need it. I live my life my way.
Hi, my name's Jeremy. My daughter's 3 years old. My daughter's proud that I come to work.
Hi, I'm Maddie and I work for the Endeavour Foundation. I come to work with a big smile on my face every day.
Love to work here because that's my new family.